From every strand on the line of your reel, to the rods, to the anglers, to the lures on the end of your hook, let's talk about those big bass here on Co-Angler's Corner with your hosts, Rob Welch and John Stoudinger.
Good evening, everybody. I'm John.
Y'all are Cage Rob. John's having a little issue with the camera for some reason tonight, so he's going to be kind of our eye in the sky or ghost. So just to let you know, he's not having a bad hair day or anything. He's just having some technical difficulties, but we still got him on audio.
Well, you have to have hair for one to have a bad hair day.
I have a bad hair day every day, but I'm still thankful I have hair.
But I just want to introduce our guest tonight. Our guest is Amy Brown. She's recognized for her involvement in tournament fishing and passionate advocate for women in the sport. One of her skills is when it comes to fishing is catching fish in challenging conditions. And she's known widely for her presence on social media, and she's not afraid to share all of her tips or promoting the sport. But the main thing is trying to engage and grow the sport with the women. Welcome, Amy.
Guys. Hi.
How's it going, Amy?
Doing good. How are you guys?
Doing all right. Just try to stay warm.
I hear you.
So, Amy, if you don't mind talking to our viewers about how you got started in the fishing and go from there.
Sure. So I always fished when I was a kid. I mean, I grew up in Central Florida. We have water everywhere. My grandparents always took me fishing. Back then, it was mostly saltwater fishing. They had a Winnebago. We would go and travel to the Banana River areas over in, Brevard County area and pull drag nets and fish under the bridges and just spend weekends there a lot of the time when I was a kid. And then they also had a couple lakes near their house where my grandfather had a john boat. We would go out in his little john boat and do some fishing. And then my parents also had a little fishing boat that we would go out and we would do speck fishing. And I don't think we ever did any bass fishing when I was a kid, but mostly speck fishing and just, use it for leisure also. But most recently, it's like everybody else. I was bored during COVID. And I live in a little town called Lake Helen, which we actually have a lake, Lake Helen, and then two other lakes right here. And so I went on Amazon and I picked up a $15 Zebco rod and reel and started hitting the lake every day because I was needing to get out of the house. Oh. And then I quickly got addicted to it. I would go every single day when I was home and knew fairly quickly I wanted to get a kayak. And then I had a buddy of mine that lives nearby that I met actually through bank fishing, who owned a kayak, and he let me go take his out one day, and I was instantly hooked. And I was like, I have to have one of these. So I had been saving some money for a while and finally just bit the bullet and went and bought my kayak, and the rest is just history. Now I spend too much money.
That's easy to do.
Yeah.
It's very easy to do.
Yeah.
So what made you choose a kayak over a boat per se?
Well, boats are way more expensive and I don't have anything to pull it. Yep. So I've never, when I was a kid, my parents had their boat, but I haven't really been on boats a whole lot. So I knew I wanted to get away from the bank.
Yeah.
So a kayak was an affordable option for me to get away from the bank. So.
Absolutely. And then there's mostly shallow water down there. That's kind of almost tailored to it down there in those conditions.
Yeah. Unfortunately, sometimes you run into some folks at the banks that you would rather not. So I was just ready to be able to go away from people and have my own little spaces to fish. So
absolutely. We had a guest on Roy one time. He said the best way to explain it is like it's the motorcycle, but you're on water. And that's pretty close.
Pretty similar.
Yeah, pretty close. But got our old buddy Barker Rugers checking in, said Patna's fired up. Hey, how's it going, Barker Rugers? Hope you're staying warm down there in the bayous. He lives
Yeah.
down South Louisiana.
I chatted with him a little bit today about a social network, and kind of wondered if he had as much snow as you do or more than I do. Because Rob, you have more than me.
That amazes me. Well, my boys in Knoxville, my sons live in Knoxville, and they got more snow than I did last year. So who knows?
So, Amy, can you share a memorable moment in your fishing career to this point?
Yeah, I have a couple. I'd say my first one was this past season with the Florida B.A.S.S Nation Kayak Series. As I got my first win, which is, you can see the sign behind me. That was just an awesome day. I had never been to the place we went to, wasn't even going to go, decided the night before to go, and ended up having just a fantastic day. It was just a day where everything went right for some reason. Even if I threw into a tree or something, it popped right back out. It was just that kind of day. And it was pretty awesome feeling to get a win like that. And then most recently, I would say in the B.A.S.S Nation State Championship a few weeks ago, I caught a huge bass in the tournament. It was the longest one I'd ever caught. It was 25 inches and 9.3 pounds. And all the guys said, your scale must be broken. It's got to be 10 pounds. And believe it or not, in that tournament, one of my buddies actually caught a 1/4 inch longer bass than me. So I didn't even win big bass. But that was a roller coaster day. I started out, I caught 2 fish right away, and then nothing for hours. Like, I just couldn't catch a fish to save my life. And then finally, my friend came from somewhere else and was within earshot of me, and she just started plucking fish out of the water. And I'm like, I don't get it. You come over here and you use probably the same thing as me, and you always catch fish right next to me when I'm using the same bait. I just don't get it. I have no luck. And I was just whining and complaining. And she's like, oh, it'll turn around. She's always trying to keep me positive. And all of a sudden, I was just sitting there, and it felt like I was stuck on the bottom. Like, there's a lot of grass in that lake and wood and stuff. And I thought literally I was hung on the bottom. There was nothing fighting, nothing pulling. It was just dead weight. And that's when I pulled up that fish, and I was just freaking out. Like, I was shaking. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe I caught it in a tournament. Yep. And then from that point on, the rest of the day just kept going, in the right direction. I was managing to stay up in like the top 2 to 4 for a long time. So I thought some of the people were sandbagging. But I ended up having just a really great day. But then at the end, I was running out of fish again. So I made the decision to move with about an hour left. And right away, I caught another fish, and I got a little upgrade trying to stay where I was at. And then I just kept fishing. I was running out of time. I just kept fishing. Got another one. Thought I had a big one, and it was a big old pickerel. And then that got my line all messed up, my rod all messed up. I had to just put that one in the back and pick up something else because I didn't have time to fiddle with it. And then I got a message on my phone from the tournament directors saying my last catch was denied. And I was like, what do you mean? I've never had a fish denied ever. So I picked up my app and I looked at the message, and it said, identifier not visible. And I was like, what? And I went and I started looking through all my pictures. I always take a bunch of them. And I looked, and every single one of my pictures was whitewashed out with the identifier. So I didn't have another one to even submit. And my heart just sank. And I was just, that whole day was just a roller coaster of just, high, low, low. Oh my gosh, I just missed out on the Bassmaster Classic because of a picture, But it was just a great day. And, I was completely spent at the end of that day. But that was definitely probably my most memorable day.
That's cool. Like when you have something like that, usually like every bite you get to the boat, every fish you land, and the next day you have same conditions, same everything, same lures, and you'll get only like half of them to the boat. So
Right.
it's weird how that kind of works out.
That would probably be like the equivalent of a bass tournament angler going into weighing a big fish and picking the wrong one out and weighing not having the right one.
Yep.
Yeah. The funny thing is that was with Florida Bass Nation. 2 weeks later, one of my other club team, Florida Kayak Bass Trail, was at the same lake, and I didn't have nearly as good a day at that tournament. But I realized that evening when I was looking at my GoPro footage that I had a pretty good sized fish that I never submitted. And it's because I was catching fish and they were just biting one after another at this one point. And I didn't submit it right away. And then I forgot. I totally forgot. Yeah. So I would have moved up in that one probably about 7 spots. But, those are all learning things.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's part of the experience.
And Parking Mover says, skip the kayak this weekend in favor of the battleship, but still keep a couple kayaks and paddleboard. It's like bringing a knife to a gunfight. Some days you just got to cut them smooth.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Been there, done that.
Hey, Rob and Amy. Jeremy. Hey, Jeremy. How you doing?
He's looking for you.
Yeah, I'm here. I can't get my monitor, my camera to work.
Hey, Jeremy, I think he's having a bad hair day, to tell you the truth. I don't know.
All 3 of them.
Yeah. But as a guy just kind of getting into kayak tournaments, you have any kind of basic stuff? I know you got to have a catch board and, all your safety stuff, your safety light. You have any recommendations, kind of guidelines, what to do, what not to do for a rookie coming into it?
I don't know if I'm much of an expert on it, but I think keep it simple. I think I've gotten a little overboard with some of my stuff, and I always seem to go back, like I was telling you earlier, is try to eliminate some weight and some things out of my kayak before every tournament, and then I end up putting it all right back in there anyway because I convince myself that I'm going to need it at some point. And I usually end up using the same 2 or 3 rods all day, but I'll typically take 6 or 8, but
oh yeah, I thought my best finish, I think I had 3 rods that day, and I think I used maybe 2 of them. So that KISS, they call it the KISS method. That KISS method is pretty awesome. You don't get spun out. You don't have 20 rods and you're trying to scramble between the rods. So there's a little happy medium there somewhere.
Yeah. And then I don't know. I mean, one thing I learned too is if your rod falls out of the kayak, don't try to reach for it because you're going to go in.
Yeah, my youngest son did that. And
Yeah.
then he tried to climb. He didn't he just grabbed the boat and it rolled back on him. He fell in again. So I was like,
I threw myself right out. It was last December. It was cold. And it was at the local lake here, and I was in probably the deepest spot of the lake, about 30 foot. And just casting, just threw my rod right out of my hand. I don't know. And I reached for it out of instinct and just bloop, went right in the water.
It was too late to stop the end. He committed. Oh, man. That happens.
Yeah. So, what's your favorite technique?
I am trying to teach myself to do the slower fishing. I wouldn't say I'm a power fisherman. I never really caught many fish on chatterbaits like most of my teammates do. I don't get them. I can't catch fish with them, but I do try them. And I try to, mostly I like to use worms of some kind. But I'm bad about doing that too fast. So I try to consciously tell myself, slow down when I'm out there. But I don't know. Some days I'll try 20 things just trying to catch fish. It just, really depends. I don't know that I necessarily have a favorite, but I would say worms and flukes are probably the things I use the most.
And I like worms. I like you. I like worms because they'll usually grab it and they'll run with it. I mean, they'll see your line going off, and you like my granddad used to say. He said, "I'd let the fish like run away with it." He says, "Are you walking the dog? You gonna set the hook or what?" You know.
Yeah.
But it's like walking the dog because they won't let go of it. They'll stick with it.
Yeah.
But got a question for Jeremy real quick. Says, "Hey Amy, what kind of rods do you like?"
I have a few different brands, if that's what you mean. If brands or weights, I'm not sure which part of that question you're asking, but
he's probably talking about length and action, probably.
Yeah,
knowing Jeremy.
Most of my rods are around 7 to 7.2 medium heavy fast action rods. I have a couple of heavy rods when I try to act like I'm actually going to go flip, which I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know how people do that all day. I find it to be the most absolute boring thing in the world. But I think I have a few that are maybe lighter for lighter lures.
Yeah.
To be able to cast them farther, but that's about my typical rod.
Yeah, I like the shorter one. Seem like it's like I got a little 6'3", and I like kind of roll casting spinner baits, and it's just the shorter rod seems like it's easier to get more accurate with it. Seems like to me, but I was kind of raised up on shorter rods, so
I think I have probably a 50-50 on spinning rods and bait casting rods. I kind of use both. Just depends on what I'm doing. So
absolutely. I mean, it's good to be versatile because I mean, some days I'll use all casting gear, the next day I'll use all spinning. So it varies. Fish should tell you usually pretty quick what they want or what they like. So
true story.
Yeah, true story. And then what things you think they're like, they don't, and things you like never thrown or have no confidence they'll bite. And it's like, okay, that's what you want today. Yeah, you never know. But Jeremy says, my kiss method turns into a swearing session. Yeah. I've had that happen too. And,
so Jeremy's, his stance for keep it swearing, sir.
Yeah. Or keep away from the great North Lakes. I'll just say that.
Anything rougher than glass he doesn't like.
True. And he's got another quick question. He says, jerk bait, do you kind of jerk baits?
I do sometimes. It depends on the lake. Down here, most of the lakes have a lot of grass, so it's not real fun to throw a jerk bait around in the grass. But I have had some really good days with a jerk bait. Over the summer at Lake Toho, I had a crazy day where I think it was three or four double ups in the same day on the jerk bait. It was the craziest thing. I had never had one ever, and I had like 3 or 4 in a row. So it was pretty fun.
I fished a Bass Open, I spent about 4 years ago, and an old man told me to fish one of those big A's, like the old-timey jerk bait, and use like a 17-pound test because it was in January, so the grass hadn't come all the way up, and it was just perfect. It ticked the top of the grass, and I caught him pretty good that day on that. But it's funny. I was fishing my pro, and he finally –
it's funny. I'm sorry. I keep talking.
No, you're good. No, my pro was like, I started catching him. He's like, what are you doing back there? He turned around and asked me. So it was kind of funny.
Yeah. I do like throwing them, but it also puts a hurting on your arms. Yeah. I got one year I used it so much. I got crazy tennis elbow for a long time. It took me a long time to get over it. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I learned, like I say, I lived around Knoxville. And the guys in Knoxville, the old guys, they'll throw it on spinning gear. And it's a lot less strain on your elbows and shoulders. I learned that. I said, that's pretty cool.
Too.
Yeah. It feels a little weird at first, but you kind of get used to it. So, and then Jeremy's kind of asking kind of what he's talking about. It says, so in a kayak, you have to use short rods mainly? Not necessarily.
I don't really have short rods for the kayak. I think I have 2 that are 6'6", but the rest of them are 7 foot or longer. I do try to find rods that have shorter butts.
Yep. Because
it's kind of hard sitting to use the ones with the longer end on them.
So, Absolutely. I know Cashion has a kayak series, and their butts, they cut the butt section down a little bit on them, and they're pretty good. I've heard a lot of guys using those.
They used to have 13 Fishing used to have a kayak line, and I loved those the way the handles were, but they don't have those anymore.
That's interesting because I mean kayak stuff's blowing up everywhere. That's kind of weird timing. It's just
I think 13 Fishing got bought out by was it Rapala or something like that?
I think so. Or it's a company that owns Rapala. There's so many big companies now. It's like the big fish are eating all the little fish. So it's like every day you hear some other company getting bought out. And then Jeremy has one more comment that says, "It's not the size of the rod, Rob. It's how you use it." Yeah, that's true. I've had some cheap rods I've done better with than my fancier rods. So I agree with that. But
so I do have a question about pre-fishing.
Okay.
It's different in a kayak than it is in a bass boat with $75,000 worth of electronics. How do you approach pre-fishing for a tournament?
Honestly, I don't get to pre-fish that much, just because of work and schedules. If I can, I will go. Like before the state championship, I did make a few trips to that lake because I had never ever done well at that lake, and all of my trips there, I think I maybe caught 3 fish at most, and I went there multiple times and still really didn't figure anything out. Just happened to have that lucky day.
Yep.
But I like right now we have a tournament this Saturday, and I haven't been to any of the lakes on the chain at all in probably a year. So I'm gonna wing it. I don't even know where I'm going yet. So, but if I do go, I try to hit a bunch of different areas. I try to hit areas that have different types of things in them.
Yeah.
And I do have a fish finder on my kayak. So I try to, mark some places up as I find them if I think it's something I should try and if I find fish. But that's pretty much it. I do pull out Navionics sometimes, Google Maps, that type of stuff. But a lot of the time it's not, to me, I think a lot of it's kind of outdated and not real accurate. So
that Navionics is good stuff. Navionics does a good job. I mean, it shows old roads and old bridges and up here is a lot of that. But that's pretty cool.
I probably do too much. I think I spend too much time on it, and at the end of the day, it doesn't really do a whole lot for me anyway. So.
Well, I was like being a co-angler. I mean, usually, we don't know we're gonna get paired with the night before, and we could be practicing shallow all day Friday, and then we get a boater that fishes deep all the time. So I rarely practice. I just bring my stuff. I know I can fish shallow or deep, and hope for the best. So, but let's see. And then Mark and Rugers has a comment, says, "Come on, John, you pre-fish by carrying your kayak on your bass boat with the 75K in electronics." Probably not.
And that's as I'm standing on. That's when I'm standing on a paddleboard.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. There are times where I wish that we were able to just hop on a boat and go check out areas, but that's against the rules. We can't be on a bass boat before the tournaments after a certain point in the time.
Right. And you have to you have to launch out of like public access areas or something.
Yeah, usually it's always public water, public ramps. Sometimes there are some private ramps where you pay maybe $5 or something. It just depends on what they approve through the tournament.
Yeah, I know up here it's like a lot of places I go. It's like there's no gas motors, like no wake, because the water supply comes out of there, and a lot of times if you show up with a paddle type kayak, they won't charge anything, and they'll charge boats $5 or $10. But if you show up with a paddle powered kayak, they'll say, "Oh, go ahead, you don't have to pay anything, you good." So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
especially on a budget. And then
what do you think? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Jeremy May says South Florida has a massive cold front coming. How do you adjust to that with limited options? Good question.
Adjust to the fishing, or
the cold, all of a sudden the rush.
Honestly, I know I'm so green. I'm not sure I even know what the proper way is to adjust to that. I just go and fish. I in the last 2 years, I've figured out a couple of things. Like usually when it's cold down here, they like to get up where there's more grass and stuff, so they can stay up in the warmth of the plants. But yeah, I mean, frankly, I think it's all just luck of the draw. If you get lucky and you find the right spot one day, I don't know that it's so much skill as much as luck.
Well, it's like in that last term I fished Saturday, it was in 20s, and the fish was close to the bank. They like the rock holds a little bit of heat.
Yep.
But everything we caught was from the very top, tip of the water to like 3 or 4 foot. There was that little section. And didn't catch anything. We tried deep, tried a couple of things, but just trying to get that rock, try to get some heat, which I don't blame the little fellers.
Yeah.
I went up in the springtime. I went up and did the USA Kayak qualifier event.
Yep.
And it was the first time I had fished outside of Florida, and I was so lost. Like, I didn't know what to do up there. It was at Lake Murray in South Carolina, and the water, at one point I was going over a spot and my kayak said it was 80 feet deep, and I was like, 80 feet deep? And I was like, this is the ocean. Like, this isn't a lake. Most of the lakes down here, you may hit a 20-foot spot, but they're mostly around 8-10 feet deep. Yep. So that was wild. That was wild.
Yeah, I have a couple lakes that surround me that are anywhere from 300 to 600 feet deep in spots. So
yeah, they say parts of Lake Murray are like that too. I mean, that's just crazy. That's wild.
It is.
It is. I when I moved from South Mississippi to Knoxville, I had the same trouble. I was like you. I was used to 6-8 foot, all this vegetation. Get up there and it's rocking, like I can see 20 foot down and see a dime. I'm like, okay. It took me about a year to get somewhat adjusted, but it's kind of a culture shock almost.
Yeah, it is.
But
so what do you? I mean, you're still green, as you say. What do you find the most challenging aspect of the fishing is?
I think for me, it's just been trying to figure out what is the right bait to use and the right area to go to, how, and putting those two together. It's. I mean, I think all of that gets more simple, and the more you go out and fish. But I don't know. To me, that's always like the hardest thing for me, is just to figure out where to go. And I mean, some days you just get lucky, and some days you just are frustrated as all get out. But and then I'd say the other thing for me is just keeping myself calm. I'm real bad about getting in my own head, so I have to bring it down. And I've been working on that, and I've got to where I sit out there. I figured out by watching my GoPro, I sing to myself all day. I had no idea. I'm like, wow, I had no idea I do that. But and just keep telling myself it's just fishing. Like, relax, it's just fishing. So I think that's a lot.
Yeah, I used to have a partner say they're little green fish and they got little bitty brains. Don't let them spin you out. And then everything you say, he's like, we go to like places where we catch them, they wasn't there. And he's like, well, they don't read the same Bassmaster magazines we do. We thought we had it all figured out. No, not there.
I'm so envious of people like Christine Fisher, where she just seems to know where to go every time she goes out in the water, and I know that's just from years and years and years of fishing and learning. But it blows my mind how some of those people that are at the top of their game can just go tournament after tournament and just keep figuring it out so easily. I mean, I know to them, they don't think it's so easy, but to me as an outsider, it looks like they just make it all look like a cakewalk when they go in some of these tournaments. So
yeah, I think Christine and actually Wheeler, I think they're part fish. That's the only thing I can explain. But
yeah, I'm sitting here bobbing my head, agreeing with you, and it's like, you can't see me.
Oh man!
But how have you? Since we are talking on women in fishing, I do have a question about that.
Okay.
Have you seen the opportunities for women in fishing evolve?
I think so. I've only been doing it a couple years, but even in those 2 short years, I've seen a lot of changes taking place, especially, with people like Christine and Anastasia and all of them pioneering, Maggie Joe. There's so many. I mean, there's so many women that are just doing so many great things for the sport. And the younger generation too. I think you've had Bracy Alt on, and some of the other girls probably. And I'm kind of envious of them. I wish I was a lot younger now, and all those opportunities were there for me, because that probably would have changed my entire life.
Yep.
I would have loved to have something like that when I was a kid. So, but I think there's been a lot more drive to get the women's side of it moving forward for sure. I do wish that they would kind of like find more sponsorships for the women. I think that's still a little lagging. And I think that part of it needs to be where it's the real people, and not necessarily the people that look pretty on the poster.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
But I do think things are going in a really good direction for sure. And there's going to be a lot more opportunities, especially for these young kids that are getting ready to go to college and fishing in high school, probably. So.
Oh, absolutely. I say I fished BFLs, Bass Open, Toyotas the last 7 years. And I'd say last 3 years, I've seen more and more young ladies, high school, college, and as co-anglers, even as boaters. I'm seeing more and more, so like every year, and it's great. I mean, hats off to them. I mean, that takes a lot of courage on their part, but I mean, they usually outfish me. I tell you the truth, so I'll admit it. So
do the people that don't fish the tournament.
Yeah, that's true. That's what I do my best. We had a BFL cancel a couple weeks ago, and a lake I always struggle on. Of course, I catch a 4.5 and a 3, and I'm like, can't weigh them in. Don't have no tournament. I mean, it's how it is. It happens that way.
That's the way it is.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What advice would you give young anglers, especially women anglers trying to break into the fishing industry?
I would say just don't be intimidated and just do your thing. There's always going to be naysayers no matter what you do in life. If it's what makes you happy, go do it.
Absolutely. Good point.
Wow. And Jeremy says, find the dead Shanika, slimy grass, along with edges of the hydrilla.
I've never heard of that.
I had either. He is the mad scientist of fishing, so I'll agree with that.
Do you have a favorite? Oh, go ahead, Rob.
Jeremy also made a good point. He says, John eats all day. That's his method. He's a guy on the back of the boat that has like the picnic, blanket out, and he has all this fancy stuff, and the little guy comes by in the boat and says, "You mean Great Poupon?" That's kind of John's way. I just say
they pick on me because I have a.
He has a 4-course meal on the boat. What are you talking about?
Well, if you've ever been out on a boat or fishing all day and gotten hungry about 10 o'clock in the morning and not have anything, that cures you.
Yeah. I agree with that statement. It did. Our good friend Jen Nolan's chiming in, and she says, these guys are all day, every day. That's why they do it. It's a bit easier. Yeah, I said every tournament I go to, it seems like you get a little more confidence and you know what to expect. But the first 1, 2, or 3, you're like kind of on pins and needles. You don't want to mess somebody up or fall off the boat or something odd. So man, about 3 or 4 tournaments, you kind of got to get the feel of it.
When I won my first angler of the year, I was fishing almost every weekend.
Yep.
And I noticed the less I fish, the worse I do.
Yep.
I fully believe that. When I've had more time to fish, I've definitely done better.
Yeah. I mean, it makes you casting better. It's like a muscle memory, as they say. You get in the groove, seems like, and it does make it a lot eeasier or more comfortable, maybe. Maybe that's a good word for it. And then Jeremy May says the people on the poster did their homework and spent a lot of time on the water. This sport is a time spent on the water, learning the different conditions. I mean, I agree with that. I mean, there's some of the pros spending 300 plus days a year. I mean, they put the work in, it shows, and they got the time. So,
yeah, that's for sure. No, I think the people that are getting the notoriety 100% deserve the notoriety.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And they're putting the time in. I mean,
they've earned every bit of it.
Yep. I'm kind of jealous, and I'm kind of not in the same breath. So, but there's always rough conditions
folks, for sure.
There's rough conditions out there, cold and hot. So both extremes. And our buddy Barker Ruger says, John, we were so cold on the boat this weekend. We packed the suitcase generator and the coffee pot. It was life changing. Yeah. Hey, Rugers, you ought to been a me on Cumberland Lake when it was in the 20s and the wind chills in the teens. So you just saying, you think that's cold? I got something for you, partner. So, but what's talk about that? What's kind of the coldest you ever been or roughest conditions you faced fishing in your kayak?
I think the first year that I did the kayak tournaments, it was either my second or third tournament ever. We had a tournament on Lake Toho, and there was a massive cold front coming through. The winds were whipping that day, and the water was super rough. I would say we probably had about 4-foot waves on the lake. I mean, it was insane. And the wind chill was in the low 20s, which is cold for here. Ooh. And it was just brutal. I think I had like 5 layers of clothes on because we don't have winter clothes. You know, I don't have anything like you would have in the snow. And it was just not fun. I tried to go where I went for pre-fishing, and that was a huge mistake. I had to come back into the wind, and it was like I was pedaling into a brick wall. I mean, I was just going nowhere. And it was scary. It was a scary day, but that was, second or third tournament, I think. And I didn't want to do that again.
I don't blame you there.
Yeah.
A little rough.
That's still too rough for Jeremy.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's my biggest paranoia thing is the wind. Like, I don't like when it gets super crazy on the water. So I've seen tournaments where people are just rocking out there. And a boat is one thing, but a kayak is a whole nother to me. I don't like to play with the wind and the weather.
Yeah, wind is not your friend on a kayak. I've learned that pretty quick.
And then down here, also a lot of lightning, you know, if we get summertime with the thunderstorms and stuff. So,
yeah, there's a lot of energy coming off the Gulf. I remember Mississippi, like in the summer, every afternoon, 3 o'clock, there'd be a thunderstorm or rain. You could set your watch by it. So, pretty weird. And then Jeremy May says, I fish 2 days a week and still learn every day. That's true. Every tournament I go to.
Yeah. Every time you go out, you learn something. Good, bad, or indifferent. You always learn something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What not to do. Yeah, maybe sometimes. Yeah, I've done that.
Make sure your identifier shows up in the picture.
Yep. It only happens once, but you never forget that moment.
So,
and then our buddy Barker Rieger says, dude, you don't even know. It was like 72 degrees. I had to wear 3 layers and a parka. Man, I'm not even going to go there, dude. And Jeremy May says, I got seasick with 1-foot floaters launching the boat. I think John can, John, I think, had a witness to that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, he came up to Oneida Lake, which is about 45 minutes from me, and we had 6 to 10 footers.
I could imagine.
Practice, and then practice has started downpouring too. It was funny. They had a bridge that's maybe 1/10 of a mile long. There's probably 30 boats underneath it.
Everybody's trying to hide.
Yep.
Oh gosh.
I've seen those tournaments where some of those pros have been in their boats and they're like getting thrown up in the air and then landing back on the deck. I don't know about
Absolutely.
That's a typical day up here.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we had a FLW in Cumberland one time, and I think that happened. And one guy knocked a power pole off. One guy knocked his trolling motor all the way off. It was dragging beside the boat. So, it got pretty rough here time or two. But nothing like up north where John is. That's every day. I agree with him on that.
Hey, you said the power pole. That made me remember I had another tournament where I have the kayak power pole.
Yep.
And I was at a lake that we weren't supposed to have any bad weather that day. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the weather kicked up and it got real bad with the waves on that lake also. And my power pole battery, I think, got wet and it wouldn't work anymore. And it was stuck down.
Oh,
So
no.
I tried to pull the release thing for it and it wouldn't work. And I had to get a boater to pull it up for me enough so I could go directly into the waves and get back to the shore. But yeah, that was another scary day.
Yeah, I had a buddy I was fishing. I think I was practicing on Del Hollow, and his power, he had one of those, I think it's, anyway, it has like the little fiberglass section on the end. It got stuck in a rock, and he had to break it off. It was jammed. We couldn't pull it up, wouldn't pull up, and he finally just waves and all that, pushed it and broke it. So it happens. I mean, even with the boaters, it happens.
I'm going to move real quick. My dog wants to go out.
No, you're good. You're good.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
All right. Sorry about that.
Right. No, you're good. You're good.
You're fine. So, do you have a favorite body of water you like to go to?
I don't know if I really have a favorite, to be honest. I think I enjoy going to Toho, and then I also hate going to Toho. It just depends. Some days are really good, and some days are just really not.
Yeah.
But that's where I've had days where I've caught some of the most decent sized fish. But that's a hit or miss thing, you know.
Yep.
Sometimes you catch those schoolers out there and you just have a really fun day, and other days I sit there and contemplate, why am I fishing? So
you want to hit your head on the kayak a couple times, clear your mind.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think I really have a true favorite. Just kind of like to go when I can go.
Hey, that's the best time to go. And Jeremy May says, stay south of the Mason-Dixon line. Maybe kind of agree with that.
I don't mind the cold too much. It's the wind. The wind's what gets you.
Oh, yeah. It'll cut through you like a knife. I mean, it's... Oof.
Look, none of the lakes around me are frozen yet, so you can always bring your kayak up.
There you go.
There you go. I'm hoping I make it up that way some of these national tournaments. So I think there's going to be some up in the Northeast this next year.
That'd like to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yep. And then Mark and Rigger says, can't have a power pole problem if you don't have a power pole. Use your noggin and bring a brick. Yeah, some days that won't work though. It's pretty strong winds. But, or you tie off to a dock maybe. But our old buddy David Archibald chiming in says, congrats with your success.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Now, in the same token as your favorite lake, what is a lake you would rather not go back to?
Believe it or not, the one where the state championship was at, I still is not one of my favorite lakes. As well as I did that day and had a great fun day, hitting goals that I never thought I would hit. I don't love that lake. I haven't done well there in several tournaments or pre-fishing or just fun fishing in general. I don't know. That one's a rough one for me.
Yeah, I got the same relationship with a lake close to me called Lake Cherokee. And it's like either like I'm practicing, I catch them real good, go tournament, I don't do anything. And it's like the planets never align when I'm on that lake for some reason. I think Cherokee stands for no fish or small fish in Indian, I think. I don't know. But I love it. I mean, it's pretty lake, but I always struggle there. So.
Yeah.
But,
I don't have any. I really want to get back to Gunnersville and defeat it.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Well, they caught a 35-pound. They had a 35-pound sack come across the weigh-in on Friday's tournament. Just saying.
That's not that bad. They're getting them up here.
Yeah, a little different. But they were getting them. But I fished with a guy at Gunnersville one time. He had like 25 pounds. because I know because I net every fish for him, and I caught a few, but man, he was just on them. He put that pattern together, and it was like a certain pattern, and it was just like doop doop doop. I mean, he was just on them. He was tickled. He's like laughing all day. He was cracking me up. But what's been kind of your best day in the water? Like you really had everything lined up. Like I said, every fish come to the boat. You got them. You know, what? No issues with the kayak. What's been kind of your best day you think on the water so far?
I still think that was probably the day that I actually won the Bass tournament, Bass Nation tournament this past year. It's just everything just went right that day.
Yeah.
I didn't even have a plan. I'd never been there. It was when we got there that day, the fog was so thick that just driving there was terrifying.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Had no expectation to do well at all, and just had a great day. Found fish all day, found a lot of fish. Like I said earlier, got caught in a tree, popped it right back out. You know, everything just flowed that day for some reason, and it was just fun. Good fun day.
That's good to have one of those days once in a while. Like everything just comes together. It's like a puzzle, just all comes together. Or Rubik's cube, all the colors just done. So I'll get that.
It's rare to have days that something doesn't go wrong.
Yep.
So it was fun. Nice to have a day like that.
Oh yeah, got to.
I do have a tough question now.
Okay.
Probably the toughest one of the day. We saved it for the end.
Okay.
What's your favorite homemade cookie?
I'm definitely a chocolate chip girl. Although I do like oatmeal as long as it doesn't have raisins in it.
Yep.
Okay. I have a friend who likes oatmeal with chocolate chips in it.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Interesting.
Yeah. Not for me though. All right. Well, we like to give you a little bit of time to talk about sponsors, mentors, people who helped you along the way. And you got as long as you want to take.
Floor is yours.
Okay. The one sponsor I have is Danis Utilities, which is a local underground utilities company here in Central Florida. They've been real great at helping me out with taking care of some tournaments and helping me when I've done a few travel tournaments and stuff like that. And I truly appreciate their support. I'm on the pro staff for Dugout Bait and Tackle, and they've been great with helping me with things for my kayak, getting things taken care of, stuff like that. Highly recommend them, especially if you need some rigging done. And I recently joined the Bahio Sunglasses pro staff and the Evolve Fishing pro staff.
So, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, Evolve is good. I love their rod covers because, I mean, you drop in the water and they float. And they never snag. I mean, unless you get just where the thread is, that's the only place it ever snags. So, yeah, they are great. I have some. I love them.
I love their bags, too.
Yep. They got good stuff.
Anything else, Rob?
No, I said we wish you the best for next season. I know you're going to do great. And just stay warm down in Florida. And we enjoyed having you on. And congrats on your success this season and your future endeavors as well.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Also, if you ever get up to New York, let me know. I can help you out.
Sounds good.
Or Kentucky or Tennessee. That's kind of my home waters now. So,
all right. But you guys stay warm too. You're a lot more likely to get cold than me.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Amy. Take care.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Guys.
All right. See you.
All
right.
All right.
All right. Sharp young lady.
Very sharp.
Great points there. But yeah, I mean, the more I get into it, the more I'm loving the kayak stuff. It's different, but it's a lot of fun.
Yep. It sounds it. So
yeah, and my back appreciates the kayak more than a boat ride. Especially when it's 20 degrees. Just saying.
And tomorrow we have Olivia Burfio from up my way. She's a co-angler, fishes Lake Champlain a lot, so I might want to dig into her and try to get some tips for theirs.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. So everybody tune on. Thank you for tuning in. see if I can get my camera to work.
We'll get it figured out. But guys, thanks again for tuning in and subscribing. And as Ozzy would say, we love you all. Peace out.